Hello everybody, it's Amanda. Today is the 19th of September 2019. I've literally got an hour before I've got to go off to the dentist and then go and do other bits and bobs today. So if I don't do this video now, it's not going to get done this week. And I really want to do it now because this is a follow-up to the George Harrison video that I did a few days ago. And his energy hasn't left at all since I switched off the camera. And I want to give an update basically and a little bit more information and bring George through again. I'm also going to pull a card from a herbal healing deck and a flower deck as well. I'm assuming that you've watched the first video. If you haven't, you can watch this one, of course. But you'll get more sense out of it if you've watched the first one, which is called George Harrison, Wise Wizard. Thank you to one of you who wrote a comment who said something along the lines of, I wasn't going to watch this video because I felt as though, how could it help me with all the craziness that's going on in the world? And then you said something along the lines of, and I'm 9 minutes into it and I'm already in tears. You know, gratitude. So I'm not saying that to big myself up. I'm saying that because I really firmly know that I'm being led to do this work now with the Heart Squad because it's about helping to raise the vibration of the planet at a time when we're all bogged down in crazy, crazy town in the collective. And the more that you feed into crazy, crazy town and the more that you get worked up and riled by all of the absurdity that's out there at the moment, the more that you're going to stall your own ascension process. It doesn't mean be ignorant to what's going on out there. I keep an eye on the news, but what I don't do is I don't feed into it, I don't delve into it, and I don't allow it to enter into my energy field because I see it purely as it's like a play that is just being played out on the world stage. The wrecking ball is doing what it's meant to do. Metatron is in charge of the whole process of bringing light to this planet, and the darkness will do its thing, which it's meant to do, to help us to question, awaken. There's so much I want to say, but I'm not going to go on and on about it because it's probably a whole video in itself. But anyway, thank you to those of you that are watching these videos because I'm being told that they find the people that are meant to find them. And it's as though you're all light warriors. So, you know, well done, everybody. Well done us, I want to say. This is important work that we're doing. So thank you for sticking with it. Thank you for watching videos as well of people that you don't even have a connection with. I said on my Facebook page yesterday, I had no connection with George Harrison this time last week. None, other than that I like the Travelling Wilburys, okay? But again, I hadn't played them for a while, but I like the Travelling Wilburys, his band. And all of a sudden, it's just like George is everywhere. I'm seeing the signs everywhere. I said on my Facebook page yesterday, I went to see it, I'll just say very quickly for those of you that don't follow me on Facebook, I went to see a friend yesterday for coffee. She's not particularly into angels and all this type of stuff, but she's a great lady. I walk in, it's breakfast, and she's reading a book, waiting for me. And she closes up the book, and I just noticed that the bookmark in her book is a sunflower, okay? It's just like the signs just go on and on and on. It's extraordinary. So George is here. George is staying. I'm going to talk more about George. I want to just quickly mention Ringo and Paul, though, because in the last video, I said to you, or Metatron said actually, that they were put together as a quartet by God, basically, in spirit before they incarnated to help bring heaven to earth, to help bring the vibration of love to earth. And it was needed for, a decade, couple of decades, for two of them to be above, two of them to be below, two of them to be in heaven, two of them to be on earth, to balance out the energies, to keep the vibration of love coming through. So we've got Ringo and Paul left, and Paul McCartney, I mean, I could do videos on Paul McCartney, I may very well do at some point. He's like a living Heart Squad member. That guy, if you look at him now, I mean, he's always had a pretty angelic, he's at Metatron saying he's got a cherubic face, hasn't he? He looks like a little cherub. When he was younger, he's got a face like a cherub. So maybe there's a link to the cherubim, I can never say that word with him. But the point is, if you look at him now, and he was born in, he's 77. I think he's 77. He has so much light coming out of himself. You can see it in somebody. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their skin. Okay, he lives a pretty clean life now, but my God, you just look at him. It's extraordinary. The light that man has within him is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I just caught a little video from a few days ago where he's doing a book signing in Waterstones. And he's signing a book that he's written about being a grandparent, I think, something like that. And there's all these kids sort of like, in awe, because it's like he's passing on his energy to the next generation through that book. Oh, it's so beautiful. I can't tell you how beautiful. You know it anyway. But the other thing about Ringo, just quickly about Ringo, Ringo's not on my radar at all. He doesn't have to be on my radar at all. Ringo is the member of the group that's meant to ground the whole thing. That's why he was the drummer, okay? He's meant to have a different vibration. But I did watch my first ever Ringo interview yesterday. I watched about 10 minutes of it. And it's so funny. He's talking about the fact that before he goes on stage, he gets quite nervous. And so he says something along the lines of, it's just so classic, it's so British as well. He says, I have a jacket potato. I can't remember what he has on his jacket potato. He says, I have a vegetable juice, and then I go on and I'm okay. But so again, the grounding aspect, potatoes, vegetables, it's of the earth. He's the grounding member. But the other thing about Ringo, and I didn't know this, let me just show you, I got it up here, is that he's 80 this year. And on his birthday, I don't know when he started this tradition, but this just demonstrates how all of them are operating from this same vibration. He invites his fans to do a simple thing, to say or think the words peace and love when the clock hits noon on his birthday. I think he started it in 2008, it says here, so it's been going for over a decade. And this happening, so on his birthday at noon, all his fans, just almost like a mantra, think about peace and love. And he said it's spreading now to more than 20 countries around the world on social media to create a wave of peace and love across the planet. I mean, how beautiful is that? So I wanted to shout out to Ringo because I think that is lovely. Right, let's put my computer away now. Let's go to George. I caught a picture of George's son, Darnie Harrison. He looks just like his father. He's got his father's energy. Very beautiful. Okay, George, where do we start? Where do we start? Let's just bring you in. Let's light your incense and bring you in. I mentioned also that the levitation that we saw George doing in the last video when he came in is a link to the Flying Yogis Natural Law Party. It was a political party based on the principles of transcendental meditation, and George was a donor. He was a supporter, and he did a concert to raise money for them. So that's what that was all about. You can Google that yourself. Right, we've got George's incense going on. Lovely. Let's just settle down then for a bit more of his amazing wisdom. I'm going to start with a card. I think that will be the way to do it today. Let's just bring him in then, though. So George, welcome back. He's saying it's so good to be here. He is actually sitting in the brown leather chair, is how I'm being shown him today. Which was almost how we left him last time. I have learnt subsequently to my last video that brown leather chair is in one of his videos. I've got my mind set on you. It's the same leather chair. So those who are fans, that's the chair he's in. Although he's saying, I'm not in the room. I'm not in the same room. In the video, he's sitting in a, it looks almost like a stately manner in front of a fireplace. It's a bit of a jokey video. But he's in this brown leather chair, looks exactly the same. But where is he? I don't recognise the place that he's showing me. It's like a spiritual land. I'm just drawn to the colours, which are very pale colours, whites, pale pinks, pale yellows, soft pastel blues. There's no strong colour around him. It's very, very soft colours, and he's saying they are the colours of unconditional love. It's as though he's in a, wanting to say he's showing me himself in a dimension. It's like a dimensional reality. But for some reason he's there sitting in his brown chair, his brown leather chair. And he's saying this represents the fact that he's acting as a bridge between Earth. Earth is represented by the brown leather chair. And for want of a better word, heaven, okay? Heaven is too constricted a term, he's saying, but dimensional reality beyond Earth, beyond that which I experienced when I was on Earth. So he's coming through in a very different way. I'm also seeing now there are other people, there are other souls seated around him in this dimensional reality that he's in now. It's almost like we're on a telephone line to him. That's what it feels like. It's very different from how the other Heart Squad members have come forward. It's literally like I'm sitting here in this room. I'm linking to him via this sort of like galactic telephone is what it feels like. Can you hear the telephone? Just going to pause that camera because that's my mum. Hold on. It is George as well, but let me just pause the camera. Hold on, guys. I'll be back in a minute. Hi, it's me again. Wasn't my mum. It was a number I don't recognise. Surprise, surprise. There's an angel orb in the scene there. Can you see it? There's a lot of light phenomena around George. I'll go back to what I was doing in a moment, but right, let me just tune back in. He had a sense of humour, didn't he? That's his sense of humour, the phone going like that. Just like as I was saying, I'm on the galactic telephone. Okay. All right, George. Right, we've got you then. Okay. He says, yeah, I'm hanging on the line. He's got a great sense of humour. He's saying to me, I'll never put you on hold. And what he means by that, you know that awful music when you ring up a company and you're put on hold and they play, some awful bland wallpaper music. He says, I'll never do that to you. And he said, if I ever did, it would be amazing music that you'd hear, okay? It's almost like I'd like to do you a jam, with some of my buddies up here. And he's shown me Tom Petty actually in particular. So in fact they're all coming in. It's like the Travelling Wilburys that are past. So we've got Roy Orbison as well. So it's like he's very chilled today. He's like up there with his mates. So that's quite a nice nod to those two. Those are the two that I'm seeing in particular, Roy Orbison and Tom Petty. But anyway, that's maybe for another day. So that's just his humour, the telephone. Okay, we've got him. Right, George, where do we start? The first thing he wants to say is thank you. He's very humbled by the number of people who are still interested in his music, and also he's saying in what he has to say. He said because when he was alive, because he was regarded as the quiet one, and indeed he did have an aspect where he didn't want to push himself forward too much. It's almost like he's surprised by the number of people that are interested in what he has to say, although not really. It's more linked into the fact that consciousness on the planet is catching up with where he was decades ago. So many of the things that he talked about decades ago, people weren't truly ready to listen. And he's really humbled now by the fact that more people are interested and want to listen, although he's also honouring the people that did listen decades ago as well. So it's like he's very comfortable with this new audience that he's got, and he's very humbled by it. He was saying, yeah, it was hard to get a word in edgeways, particularly with John and Paul. Okay, he's showing me those two. And he's showing me John and Paul, their two energies, and he's showing me that it's like he was in between them. I don't know whether maybe it's a physical thing, whether maybe those two came to blows sometimes, and George was the peacemaker between them. I'm feeling that. But whether that was actually played out physically in terms of them coming to blows and George having to step in, or whether it was just George energetically, because he was there holding that energy of the bridge. It's like he's a peacemaker, basically. He is a peacemaker. So he said it got a bit volatile at times back in those days. Okay. He's also wanting to... I was about to say he's wanting to sort of give a shout out to Paul and Ringo, particularly Paul, but it's as though he's saying to me, he knows that I'm still around him. He knows that I'm still around him. There's just this awareness that they are all still linked. It doesn't really matter where they are, whether they're dead or whether they're alive. It's like it's all existence is what he's saying. Those words, dead and alive, he's saying it's all existence. Let's start talking about existence of the soul and the journey that the soul goes through. So through different lifetimes, through different incarnations, through different experience. Let's start talking about existence of the soul. And he said, as souls, we knew each other very well. And he's saying to me, even any volatility between, for example, Paul and John, it was because there was a deep soul connection between the two. And he's giving me the analogy. He wants to talk about families again. It's true that in families, I've said this to my own husband sometimes, that in the early days, not anymore, but it's almost like it's not necessarily good, but people you live with, people that you're very comfortable with, people that you're entwined with, you don't always show the best of yourself. I mean, you should do, of course, but you're getting what I mean by that? It's as though we put on our best behaviour sometimes when we go to work. I remember, I will say something here because it's the only way I can explain what I'm trying to say. I remember in the early days of my marriage, and, you know, if we had an argument, I remember my husband saying to me once, you know, no one's ever spoken to me like that, no one's ever spoken to me like that at work, and I said, yeah, but nobody at work, people don't live with you 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I said, this is reality. It's like warts and all, it's like you see all parts of somebody. You see their very best, and also sometimes you see their very worst. And that's what he's saying here. He's saying it with regard to the family, which was the Beatles, that they were very comfortable with each other. They were all very close, but because of that, any tension, it was all linked into that sort of dynamic of, it's okay, I can be like that because ultimately I know that they'll forgive me, or they'll give me a pass, that type of thing. Okay. Right, George, where are we going now then? Let me look down at some of my things that I've written. Somebody wanted, George, for you to say a little bit more about being the quiet member of the family. Okay, so being the quiet one, being the humble one. So can you say a little bit more about the family dynamic for people watching who are maybe the quiet member of the family, or the one that is a bit more unassuming? Are you saying, sure? Okay, so let's talk about quietness. Let's talk about that. He's saying, he's almost wanting to put two words together. He's wanting to put the word quietness and he's wanting to put the word stillness together. And he's saying both qualities, quietness and stillness, hugely threaten certain people. and they also hugely threaten society. He's leading me back to Buddhism now, okay? And he's leading me back, he's giving me references that I will understand. So this is something that I've said before in previous videos, I think. I've certainly said it in workshops. So he's saying the energy of a monk such as Thich Nhat Hanh, okay? And Thich Nhat Hanh has written many books, and he's all about the power of being present and the power of listening. So one of his famous things that he's quoted as saying is, after 9/11, what would he say to, I can't even remember the guy's name, Bin Laden, basically. What would he say to Bin Laden? If he was in the presence of Bin Laden, what would he say? And I think he was asked this maybe in a, I don't know, a show or, a talk that he was giving, and it probably was said in that way. What would you say to Bin Laden then? All this stuff about peace and light and stillness and, healing. What would you say to Bin Laden? And Thich Nhat Hanh's response was, I would just listen. I would profoundly listen. And the whole energy was one of stillness. I would listen. And that is very threatening to people who want a quick retaliation, a response which is meet fire with fire, George is now showing me Gandhi as well. It's that whole thing about, violence just leads to more violence. I've got the Gandhi energy coming in now with George as well. He's showing me Gandhi. He's showing me Thich Nhat Hanh. He's showing me these people who understood the power of meeting aggression, meeting hate with a different energy to what is expected. Okay. So let's take it now down into sort of like family situations, everyday situations. He's saying it can be hugely triggering for some people to be met with somebody who is holding a strong vibration of peace and ability to own their own essence without seeking validation, without their ego needing to be stroked in some way, being at peace within themselves. That can be hugely triggering for people that are not able to hold that, who are needing a response. There are many different vibrations of quietness. What do you mean by that? Did you get that? He says. How many people were, I don't know, thinking, what's she going to say? Why has she gone quiet? What's next? Come on. Can we just sink into quietness sometimes? Can we sink into the space that it gives us to realign, to recalibrate, to breathe, to hear that which we hadn't realised was going on around us. The ticking of the clock, the birds outside the window, the sound of your own breath in your body. The hum of the universe, the vibration of Mother Earth, the beats of Mother Earth. to hold that, to be present for that. How special is that? He's shown me a saying that is attributed to Christ. Just moving my camera, it's getting a bit hot there in the sun. And the passage linked into Christ is something along the lines of the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth. And he's drawing me to that passage, which is that the word meek has often been misconstrued through the years as being about weakness. But he's saying to be meek is actually to hold that strength that we just felt in that moment of silence, that moment of quietness, that moment of stillness. And he's saying meditation and being able to connect to your own higher self, your own godliness within, is the key to help you hold that particular frequency. He's now showing me at a more collective level that the meek shall inherit the earth is a nod to the new wave of consciousness that wants to flow in across the planet and has been flowing in for a number of decades, a number of years. But he's saying the acceleration of this is really quite extraordinary. He's saying, like many things though, you can't see it at ground level. You can see it at higher perspective. He's saying it is coming. It is coming. He's taking me to the demonstrations in Hong Kong. And as a template for revolution that will change the world. He's saying he's not showing me the end result of that particular issue, but he's saying the way that they are behaving in terms of trying to meet, trying to counter oppression and violence with non-reaction and peaceful protest is a template that will spread from east to west. This backs up something that Archangel Metatron showed me, 6 months ago, when I was linking into Australia and the future there. And I was shown a wave of consciousness starting around 2020, being birthed now, but starting around 2020, a new wave of consciousness that would spread from east to west across the planet. But it was spreading from east to west. It wasn't spreading the other way. It was as though, for all sorts of reasons within the West, we just weren't quite there with it all. So it's interesting that he's taking us to Hong Kong. He's showing me the umbrellas. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can, research it yourself. But there have been protests for weeks, if not months now, against Chinese infringement and human rights. And it is it's a lot of people on the streets, pretty much daily. And they have like an umbrella, rainbow. They have, it's like what George is showing me is a sea of rainbow umbrellas. And it's as though he's aware of what's going on there. Very interesting, okay. Let's move on to something else. I wanted to ask you, George, about your relationship with Maharshi Mahesh Yogi and what you learnt, or would just like to ask you about that relationship, that teaching. Of course, that could be 10 videos in itself, but just anything that you want to share today with regard to that particular connection. He's saying, Maharishi, it was a reminder to his soul that we are all one. Growing up as he did in the UK, in the family that he grew up in the culture that he grew up in the time that he grew up in, with the background of the history that he grew up in. So he's talking about, his parents' generation and grandparents' generation, which was about the war, the two world wars. So all that baggage, all that ancestral baggage, it's as though as a star seed coming in, he had forgotten the connectiveness between everything. So meeting Maharshi Mahesh Yogi was very much linked into remembering that we are all one. And to be able to remember that, he needed to have two very different cultural experiences, two very different reference points. And then he showed me the rainbow. He showed me a rainbow, and understanding that both ends of the rainbow are just as valid as each other, and that they make up the whole spectrum. Okay, so this is a nod more to the whole merge between East and West, the belief systems and the religions between East and West. Okay, that they are all united. They are all linked, and what links them is the Godhead. What links them is Source. Anything else to say, George, with regard to Maharshi Mahesh Yogi? Sitting in his energy was quite something. He says, I was very awestruck in my early days. And he's showing me this image of himself sort of looking up at this yogi with he said he really made me question. He really made me have to dig very deep into myself, into my psyche, into my soul. He stirred remembrances of many other lifetimes. And he's saying it's as though the amnesia, the fog, lifted, and I remembered all that I was, all that I am, all that I ever will be. He's saying sitting in his presence was also a very grounding energy as well. He truly embodied the energy of heaven to earth. So it feels very grounded sitting in this yogi's presence, whilst at the same time complete enlightenment as well. And he's saying, it was all preordained that we were going to meet. Okay, so it's like already been told by Metatron that the Beatles were orchestrated by Spirit to come and do what they did, but it had already been orchestrated by Spirit that the Beatles, all four of them, would meet this Maharshi Mahesh Yogi before they did. So it's as though we were all just at soul level, we all knew this was going to happen. It was actually as much a part of the Beatles' legacy as the music, the introduction to Western culture of Eastern principles and Eastern beliefs, raising the profile of that. He said that was part of our mission as well. And we were very happy to sit at the feet of Maharishi. And he said another aspect of it that was very enjoyable is the fact that when they arrived, of course, they were these global superstars who couldn't go anywhere without being followed down the street and chased and all the rest of it. Adulation, fame, celebrity. And he said sitting at the yogi's feet, he said we were just, we were the same as anybody else. So he said it was a very grounding experience for us. It brought us back down to reality, and helped us to re-acclimatise for the next chapter of all of our individual lives. And he's showing me all 4 of their lives from that point, even though I don't know, they might have done more music as the Beatles after that, but it's almost as though they were fed something by the yogi in terms of understanding their own individual power as well as their collective power. Something was seeded there that was very special. He said it also reminded me that I was a student. You know, it's very important to remember that all of us are students of God. However, whoever we are, wherever we come from, that we are all students of God, and that we are all learning. We never stop learning. In fact, he said, whichever dimension you go to, whether it be on earth or whether it be the other side of the veil, it's always about continual learning. So sitting at the yogi's feet, I was able to put myself back into the role of being a student. And now he's got a sense of humour, because he's saying to me, remember I said I wasn't the best student when I was at school. He showed me himself daydreaming out of the window and not taking a lot of notice. So it was almost as though I got another chance to sit in a school at a master's feet, at a teacher's feet. And this time I listened. This time I listened because it spoke to my soul. It also spoke to my intellect, and it also spoke to my heart. Okay, and then he's taking me to his feet and showing me his feet, bare feet. And I'm now seeing like the line of Hare Krishna, and the robes and the dancing and the music and the flowers. And he's saying how delicate and how special, and how, what's the word, George? Delicate, special, languid, free-flowing, in tune with that whole vibration he was, the Hare Krishna energy. Something about it that's very free, something about it that's very, I mean, from my own perspective, you know, just coming back to me now, you know, going into London anytime, you know, usually you'll see them last time I went to London, actually, they were processing, or, you know, I think they call it processing, down Oxford Street with their, you know, their chant Hare Krishna, and they make quite a big show of it. You know, it's like everyone's like, oh, there they are, you know, and that's part of it. It's like, there's a liberation that comes. It's like, don't care what anybody thinks. We're full of joy. That's what he's saying. It's like, it's the vibration of joy, real joy of being alive. That's what the colours are about as well. And hearing the chant, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, it's like it reverberates out to anybody that it touches. He says it's very, very beautiful. I really appreciated being aligned with that energy. Okay. I'm going to go to a couple of questions now, George. I've also got these decks, which I'll just start to shuffle. I'll show you the deck. In fact, let's do this now. The deck is by Sarah Baldwin. It's called the Herbal Healing Deck. And this is a nod to George's love for plants. And everything I talked about in video 1 with regard to his love for nature. So let's ask George for a herbal card for us. What are we asking here? Let's just think what we're asking. A herbal remedy. And this doesn't mean you've got to go and buy the herbal remedy. I'm just saying this is an energetic herbal remedy that for whatever reason George feels we need at the moment on this planet. Okay, so it's like a collective, I always wanted to say collective cleanse, but let's see what we get. One card, George, which one? That one. Hops. Did he like beer? Was he a beer drinker? I don't know. Hops always make me think of beer. Okay, I wonder whether he liked a good beer or a lager or something like that. We've got hops, but hops is about celebration. I was just talking about the vibration of joy, wasn't I? This is about celebration. And on the bottom of the deck, we've got oats, which is linked to fertility. So it does feel as though there's something coming out here about just the joy of being alive, celebrating. But hops was the one in particular. So let's just have a little look at what it says about hops. And this classes them according to the season that they're in. So just got to find it. Okay, it's classed as a summer one, and it's classed as the direction of south. Right. There's a it's perfect. There's 2 pages, so I'm not going to read it all out, but there is a little saying underneath hops, and it says this: rest is not idleness, and to lie sometimes on the grass on a summer day, listening to the murmur of water or watching the clouds float across the sky is hardly a waste of time. And that's a quote from Sir John Lubbock. And how beautiful is that? I can see George straight away inviting us to lie on the grass and to watch the clouds go by and to feel the breeze on our face and to feel the sunshine if you're in a time where there is sunshine. But that thing about quietness is not idleness. It seems to be linked. Sorry, not quiet. Rest is not idleness. Can you feel the vibration? It's very much about power in silence, power in stillness, power in sometimes not having to do the whole time, you know? I was actually watching an interview with George yesterday, just because I'm really interested now. And there was an interviewer, and he was obviously asking him about the Travelling Wilburys. And I don't know how many albums they did, but this interviewer is sort of saying to him, so what's the next album going to be called? And George hadn't even done the next album yet. They were already talking about the second album. So it's like, okay, so what's the third album? What's the fourth album going to be called? And you can see George just has this very still energy where he's listening, he's being polite, but he's just saying, well, you know, when it's done, we'll decide. It's like, why always are we wanting to leap ahead to the next thing? Why are we always rushing? There's this thing about slow down. Slow down, you move too fast. You've got to make the future last. Feeling groovy. That song keeps coming up all the time when I do the sessions. I don't know. So there's that. Right. So we've got hops as the herb. Let's see what flower we get. Let's just have a flower now as well. It might be a crystal actually. This is a deck by a lady called Ursula Selwood, who's actually died now. You can't get it anymore, I'm afraid. Every time I use it, people love it and they say, where can we get the cards? But she died and it hasn't been reprinted. But I've got a deck, so I'm going to use it. So, George, give us an affirmation linked to a flower. Just one, he's saying. Yes, that one. Tulips. Okay, tulips. That's the vibration, tulips. Okay. Looks quite similar actually to, this is the sunflower card. I got the sunflower card out because we talked about sunflowers last time. This is the affirmation for sunflower. I'm enjoying strong and balanced growth in my life. But that wasn't the card for today. The card he's given us today is tulips. And the affirmation says, there are many ways to see things. I have my own unique point of view. And I think that's very George. I think that's absolutely the way that he lived his life. That he didn't conform to maybe the expectation of how he was supposed to behave, you know, sort of like be this rocker that's loud and, you know, I don't know, doing whatever they do. Just holding a very still vibration, very much holding his essence. So I love that. So he's giving that to us. for us to be like that in our own way. You know, maybe you are very loud and crazy. Great, if you are. I'm not trying to change anybody. He's not trying to change anybody. He's just saying there's enough room in the world for everybody to be their own unique self. So there are many ways to see things. I have my own unique point of view. Okay. Let's just get a question. And then I want to ask him about the Travelling Wilburys. Okay, this one's from Kundalini Kali Yuga. Oh my, this is the one I've been waiting for. I, like many, many people, have been touched by George's gentle, enigmatic energy, a mass of contradictions, an old soul, and he always struck me as someone whose essence was at once as light as air, yet as deep as water. I've always held a soft space for George as I discovered the Beatles' music in my teens in the early 80s. When he passed away, I really felt it. No other celebrity death has affected me as much as George's did. I was surprised just how much emotion I felt. A few days after his death, I had a dream. I've only had a few visitation dreams, but this was definitely one of them. He visited and sat with me on a bench in silence. I'm going to well up. He visited and sat with me on a bench in silence, watching a sunset, saying barely a word. I woke full of love, and I knew then that he was a guiding spirit for me and for many of us. If you can, could you ask him if he does guide and visit in dreams? At his tribute concert, they sang a song called I'll See You in My Dreams. Dreams, of course, are also very much of the Piscean realm. Thank you so much, Amanda and George, for this. I look forward to this very much. Wow, I hadn't read that before. That's really moved me. I think it's moved you as well. I felt I felt that. Did he visit you? 100% he visited you. It's almost like it's summed up the last two videos of energy I've done of him. He visited, he sat with me on a bench in silence, watching a sunset, saying barely a word. Wow. That is moving. That's mastery, isn't it? That's mastery. To be able to come in and say nothing, but just to hold that vibration of complete peace and stillness and be affected by that. Wow. Should we just sit in his energy for a minute? Let's do our 2-minute thing. I'm not going to put my stopwatch on, I'll just judge it. Let's just have 2 minutes in George's energy and just imagine we're all sitting on a bench with him, watching he wants us to watch the sunrise. He wants us to watch the sunrise and imagine the new earth. And the new earth is linked into the meek inheriting the earth. People who are humble, people who hold peace and love in their heart, who don't have to shout and scream and fight, who just hold the vibration of love. Just see yourself sitting on that bench with his energy and feel the sunrise as it greets a new day. Breathe in the sunrise. Breathe in hope. Breathe in the new dawn. See the majesty of God, is what he's saying. See the majesty of creation. See the beauty of this earth. See the golden dawn. See the dewdrops on the new earth. Hear the birds in the sky. Feel the peace in your heart. Feel the love for mankind. Feel the love for your enemy. You can do it, he says. Feel the love for your enemy. Feel the love for your brother. Feel the love for each other. Feel the love for the world. Feel the love for yourself. Feel the love of God. Open your eyes and feel the love of the sunflower. Okay. Move my camera. The next question that follows is, did he reach a master level? I'd say so, wouldn't you? Okay, I think I'm about to lose my battery life. I'll just try and it looks like it's gone very dark. Has it gone very dark? Let's put it back there. Hopefully you can still see me. Right, well, it's quite a nice place to finish, I think, probably. Just going to see if there's one more question. That's a nice question. Claire Nelson. Is Van Gogh ever around? Love his work, Sunflowers. Yes, I think so. It's funny, one of my friends posted a picture, a painting, beautiful painting that her daughter had painted of sunflowers only a week or so ago. En Sobel. I woke up early this morning in the US and had the urge to paint a sunflower. Always felt a connection to this wonderful soul called George. Looking forward to feeling his vibe through you. Okay, I think we've done that today. I think I'm going to leave it there, guys, because I don't feel I can top what we just did. And we'll come back and do more George soon. But I wanted to do something this week and get that to you. So let's just see if he's got any final words to say. No words necessary. It's like he's pleased with the transmission, the energy that just came through there. And he wants you to know that he's staying around. So enjoy the connection with him. It's very, very beautiful. Much love, everybody. See you soon. Have a good day. Bye.